He wouldn't spike the football, wouldn't use it. When you heard that, you knew it was a lie. Because we're the enemy. He works for the bankers. He wants to socialize things so that we're dependent on them. And then once we're dependent on the system, they can totally control us. Okay, let's go to your phone calls. And after we go to this first round, I am just poleaxed by the man talking about the military at Fort Stewart, which is one of the main brigade homeland centers, and talking about military in plain clothes raiding the chicken farmer who got killed. Because it all fit into place. People say it was sheriff's department outfits, but but the sheriff's department said none of our deputies were there. And the sheriff says, we didn't do that. And then all the police deputies or police officers were off that day and looked totally freaked out. I mean, I've got articles here out of the Pilot newspaper, the official Virginia Pilot, there in Norfolk, where their own reporters were racially attacked by 100 black youths, and others are being attacked, and the police will not respond, and the newspaper wouldn't let them report it until the youth began to brag on Facebook about it. So, I mean, the media, talk about control, political correctness. It's more than just political correctness. It's total, like, CIA-level black ops, because they won't even report on racial attacks all over Norfolk, Virginia, and they won't report on the military that I've confirmed is in plain clothes raiding people's houses for decades, and now it's expanding. So I want to hear from military that's been part of this. I've interviewed people. I've seen the documents. I've gotten documents where the FBI goes, okay, here's your press release, and it's not. It's a secret document. And the FBI guy jumps in his car and drives off. Was it an accident? Was it on purpose? That is in my film, Police State 2, The Takeover. And those documents are online. And it says, this is restricted. Don't let the public see it. Fort Hood, will respond anywhere in Texas. We'll send helicopters, SWAT teams, warrant service. Within hours, you need us. The U.S. Army stands ready. They tell the public, oh, it's bomb disposal. No, it's not. That's the cover. And in another drill they did, I had the Army come up and say, turn your camera off. And I said, no, I'm not going to. And the guy started bowing up, and I said, do whatever you're going to do, man. This is what's happened in America. I mean, this is how far we've gotten. All right, I'm going to go to the military. We're going to go to Bob in Wisconsin, who was airborne in Afghanistan, then Aaron, Minnesota National Guard, Stacy, Navy man's wife, has information. Patrick, Coast Guard in Texas. Steve, New Jersey, was in Army in Afghanistan. We'll go to all of you. And I'll try to shut up. This is just blowing me away. And it's not being reported. And you're like, well, how can that happen? They won't allow racial attacks to be reported all over the country. I mean, it's bad. Let's go to Bob in Wisconsin first. Bob, you're on the air.
Yeah, I was 3rd Brigade, 101st, 9/11. That morning we watched it before I went to work. We never went back to work. And the funny thing they said to us that day was, pack your bags, we're going somewhere, we don't know where and we don't know when. Well, we ended up over there. And our 1st Battalion and 2nd Battalion were in Anaconda. Well, I got there towards the end of Anaconda, right when they were coming out of the battle. Well, I ended up going to Coast at Chapman Airfield. There's only two platoons of us, and we were working directly for the Special Forces. And the big joke was, we're going to get Bin Laden. And a lot of the SF guys would sit there and they'd look right at you, and they'd go, are you kidding? Oh, yeah, right. But they won't say nothing. But mostly we played with, like, the Haqqani faction. You're looking at, like, a lot of warlords on the border right there. In the
sure, and it's all a fight over opium.
Yep. I'm not... Now, as early as I was there, it was a chess match. You'd sit there and play chess with the day, go on patrol at night. Now, that's early, 10 years ago. Now, with 40,000 guys there, when I was there was 3,000 of us. Now, I watched everything go over that border left and right every day of the week, and there is no control in that. You know, I just sit here and grit my teeth 10 years later, and I agree. That's why I listen to you. It's a joke. I walked across the street. I saw Bin Laden dead. I cried for the 10,000 guys that died over there because of it. You know, it ain't over.
Let me ask you a question. Do you believe any of this?
I believe when I came home going through the TSA was a joke, you know, but you got your Special Operations Command that ain't subject to that. You know, it's a horse. It's scary. There's no oversight. You know, I'd come home.
So you come back after supposedly fighting Al-Qaeda and they want to grab your genitals. Meanwhile, it's on the news that Al-Qaeda openly is supposedly the good guys now in Libya and all these places. God bless you, sir. Good to hear from you. Let's go ahead and take another call here. Let's talk to Steve in New Jersey, who was in the Army in Afghanistan. What's your take on the one-year anniversary of him being killed and thrown in the ocean?
Alex, greetings to you. How are you?
Good.
You know, I don't even know where to start, to be honest with you. I mean, when you see how far we've degraded, you know, as a society, as America, as a principle, it really is just sad. You know, I think for me, I kind of, having been home from Afghanistan, we started hearing the inklings that we're going somewhere, and it was Iraq. And I think after having been home, I didn't go to Iraq, but having been home and listening to the news stateside, and having been on the other side of the fence in Afghanistan, when these weapons of mass destruction didn't show up, I think that's when I woke up, and I really started to wake up at least. And, you know, with the whole Pat Tillman death and the Jessica Lynch, like you mentioned, it really opened my eyes to, man, this is really a politicized the war. I mean, I think it's sad, you know, when you know, it's funny, I often think of the lyrics from the Black Sabbath song, War Pigs, using people as pawns in chess. And I get angry. I get mad as hell. And it really, to think that I was essentially, myself and my comrades were used to forward these political agendas, which have absolutely nothing to do with national
And by the time you figure it out, they've always got a new crop to breathe to you, to be given experimental shots, and to be tested on, and now to have the death benefits stolen. And in America, you're supposed to just put a flag out front of your house, bow down to the government, and that's patriotism. Well, if that's patriotism, I don't want any part of it. Talking to your buddies from the military, are any of them buying this Bin Laden thing?
Well, it's funny. I was an MP when I was in the Army, so you know, we tend to be the redheaded stepchildren of the Army. But so a buddy of mine decided, you know what, I want to go the Special Forces route. And you know, when Bin Laden was killed, you know, he and I openly had this conversation. I said to him, look, you know, doesn't it seem a little fishy that this has been so nicely, you know, gift wrapped and swept under a rug, so to speak? Well, you know, it does seem a little fishy, but the intel, you know, I have access to the SIPRNet, so the intel I read is different from what you guys read.
Yeah, but that's where the greatest propaganda is inside those secret news chains where they can get away with more ridiculous lies. It's like everybody I know in the military was the fake Bin Laden photo. And then they say, oh, I saw a secret one. And I go, really, is this it? I go, that's a fake one. And they never want to admit they got duped. The worst brainwashing is within those compartments. Because, see, when it has to go public, it can get debunked. When they keep it chambered, I mean, it's well known that the biggest brainwashing goes on inside the military.
You know, and because of the way that line of communication is secured, there's no way to tell whether it's true or not. You have to take it at its face value and assume it's accurate.
Here's an example. One time I was at a land rights rally at the Capitol. No, it wasn't the Capitol. It was at the police station or down by the old city hall. The point is, I was walking back from my car and heard the police on their radios going, yeah, it's an extremist group. It's Republic of Texas. They're here trying to cause trouble. And we weren't Republic of Texas. They just made that up and just fed it to the cops to, like, you know, say these are bad guys. And I'm not saying Republic of Texas is bad. My point is that they just throw labels on. So just because it came down the radio, they volley it down. And then they say, oh, I saw a secret one. And I go, really, is this it? I go, that's a fake one. And they never want to admit they got duped. The worst brainwashing is within those compartments. So just because it came down the radio, that doesn't mean, or just because you're in an internal group, that you're being given the truth is my point.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. And unfortunately, I think a lot of these guys are still drinking the Kool-Aid, in terms of, we're here for America and defending our freedom. But I think they're just naive to what's actually happening. I just, to me, the fact that his body was so neatly dumped over the side of a boat and, is never going to be seen from again is fishy. I just don't get it. Like, to me, it's screaming that there's much more to it than what we're being told.
But what about him changing the story? There was no video feed. The Situation Room's photos fake. He didn't do a firefight. He didn't use his wife as a shield. The helicopter with the SEALs getting on it blew up. I appreciate your call. God bless you, sir. Let's go to, we've got Minnesota National Guard, Infantry, Army. Let's talk to Stacy, who's a Navy man's wife, with information. Stacy, what info do you have for us on the 1-year anniversary of the slaying of the dragon by Obama? I mean, the slaying of the goblin. I mean, the slaying of the devil. I mean, the slaying of the Easter Bunny. I mean, bin Laden. What do you think about this?
Hi, Alex. Well, I can tell you one thing for sure. My husband recently returned from being deployed to Afghanistan, and no, he does not believe that we killed bin Laden over there in the raid. And, he thinks the whole thing was just completely made up. And obviously we've been given no evidence whatsoever to prove it in any way, shape, or form. So no, he doesn't believe that. But there's something else I can tell you about that he experienced while he was on his deployment in Afghanistan. And that is the fact that the idea of 9/11 being an inside job was openly discussed amongst the troops while they were there, and that this happened with him, even with men of much, much lower rank, that, I thought that really said something, that they were comfortable enough to talk about that with him in particular, to, openly discuss that idea that 9/11 was an inside job. I thought that was a pretty good sign of, where the military stands in terms of what the troops really believe and, how our troops feel about this war.
And see, what they're doing is they're filtering out people that aren't smart or aren't sophisticated to be this brigade homeland. For years, they just filter them out, make them police, or keep them in domestic military formations for war with the people, because the vast majority of the military, I mean, I've never really done this in the last few years because I've always seen it as a threat because it's under globalist control, but more and more, the statistics show it, the numbers, what I see, the military is more awake than any other group across the board.
There's one other thing I can tell you also, and this just happened in the last week or so. We actually have a couple of battalions at our base that are being redeployed that just got back. And so this is quite a shock, obviously, to these guys because they just recently got home and they've been given almost no notice. This is a very unusual thing. So, I don't know what what it was Obama said about, he's supposed to be pulling troops out of Afghanistan, when apparently they're turning right around and sending a couple of battalions back out again.
Well, that's a black